Okay, welcome back to the latest United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. And this is your Friday night pint as Larry crushes another beer or two. But it is your Friday night pint, potentially one of our last ones in lockdown, because maybe next Friday you're able to go to the pubs will be open. Is Larry okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just trying to get another table here, lads.
Absolutely demolishing the podcast as usual, but I will start with a beer as usual on a Friday night. But we do have good friend Ahmad with us, and Larry obviously, I think he's with us. I'm not sure what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Struggling as well.
Bear with me, lads. I'm all good.
The big log table's out.
You're struggling, Larry. Let's go.
I got a
he's
drink.
on his
I got my
cider,
drink.
so does that come with an umbrella?
Mate, piss off. All right. Firstly, piss off, Tom. I don't drink cat piss, but if you enjoy piss, enjoy it. I'd rather have something with a bit more flavour, all right?
If you want to try and be funny, at least make a little bit of an effort, but not too bad. But yeah, honest on Woods. But good mate Ahmad was with us. If you are watching on delay, we have had some troubles with that playback issue as well. So if you are watching on repeat, just go and maybe just pause the video for 2 seconds or 2 minutes, go to the beer, go to the fridge, grab a beer, come back up to 2 minutes as the video has loaded, and you should be right. But if you are joining us live, please make sure you get all your comments in the live chat and share all your opinions in regards to the Newcastle takeover, which we'll obviously get into, the Glazers, how it affects the Glazers, and obviously we'll touch a little bit on Paul Pogba because obviously it is an international break and Paul Pogba has opened his mouth. We did think it was going to be Mino Raiola, but it's obviously Paul Pogba this time. But we will start, and Larry, I'll go to you first with a quick question and answer this honestly straight off the bat. If we've got headphones in, but answer this honestly straight off the bat. I don't want you really thinking about it. If you were given the choice, would you rather United win the league this year or Newcastle be relegated?
Oh, the bastard in me really wants Newcastle to get relegated. I'm going to say United win the title. United win the title because I'm all about my happiness rather than others' misery. But it would be a good laugh.
Well, I think that's the thing. You think you have to go United win the league, obviously, because I think with obviously it's a long-term thing for Newcastle. If they did manage to actually blow it and get relegated, I think they bounce straight back up. So, and the inevitable will happen with Newcastle sort of progressing. But Ahmad, what do you think if you had to put your money on one thing happening this year? United having success or Newcastle going back to the championship?
I'm going to jump on Larry's bandwagon and go for a United title win, but
don't know if it can carry that, mate. I've put on the COVID calories. Hey, by the way, for Tom abusing me, look at this. Devil, it's got the word devils in it. I'm in theme. Representing the Red Devils, pear-flavored Red Devil. You know what? I'm telling you, Manchester United will be a sponsor for this because of this video.
Not bad. And Ryan is in the comments. Hope you are well, mate. Evening, mate. Jess is also girlfriend of Larry. I was eyeing that cider in the fridge, but Larry obviously won that race. And Ryan saying at the end of the day, it's another night for the chest football. It does make Newcastle the richest club in the world. Will be interesting what they do in January. Pogba to Newcastle. Well, I'm sure that will be a link before sort of too long before the end of the episode. I'm sure that link will come out. But we will get to Paul Pogba at the end of the episode. Now, just before we went live, the minutes of the latest fan forum have just come out, and I've only sort of skipped over them. I've just seen sort of football parts in terms of John Murtagh talking about sort of Premier League titles, etc., sort of thing. So I haven't got the full details of what was said, but we will get into that in maybe a future episode when all the sort of quotes come out and we can dissect it. But the hot news today is obviously Newcastle and the takeover. So we're going to dissect everything in and around there. So please get your thoughts in the comments. But I'll go to you, Larry, to start off with. I think we've had this debate before about the Glazers and the Saudi owners and sports washing and everything. I'm just thinking, what's your latest? Because Newcastle, this has been in the sort of pipeline for maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years. It's sort of hotly sort of talked about a year ago and it faded away. This time it was finally done. And we've always sat here talking about sort of always taking the high ground. Okay, we don't like the Glazers, but we don't want those type of owners. We don't want these sort of oil-rich companies, oil-rich owners coming in and sort of spending their money in terms of, we'll get into the sports washing aspect of it in a little bit. But what's your feelings of it when you see a deal finally go through and suddenly it's not sort of up for debate anymore? Newcastle are going to be a threat. Just your current thoughts on it.
It's kind of sad, isn't it? I think we just have to come to the realization United's position at the pinnacle of European football is again under threat. And it's under threat not by the successful planning or the organic rise of a sleeping giant, but rather for sports washing. Money speaks, and it's really sad, if I'm being honest with you, mate. Like, I think I've come on here. Obviously, I'm always happy to be with my mates and have a drink, but it's really sad that world football, if you look at PSG, Manchester City, and now you're looking at the prospect in Newcastle, the romance that is football is really impacted by these sorts of things. And I think the beauty, if obviously we'll talk about United in this video, but look, the beauty for me of football, Tom, is, and the thing that makes Manchester United such a special football club is the organic rise. The way the club grew from Newton Heath, a club very much built on industrialism in hard blue-collar Manchester that becomes this massive superpower through the 80s, and what Sir Alex Ferguson goes on to achieve. That no longer matters. It's all about money now, unfortunately.
Well, what do you think of Mad? Because I'll get just your general opinions as well, but as I said, we always sort of take the high ground, and when we don't have these sort of Saudi Arabian or Qatari or UAE owners, we say, no, we don't want that money. But then you also say, well, if the situation did arise and the Glazers left and suddenly we have owners with huge ambition come in, it'd be a very hard sort of argument to say, no, I don't want that. We'll sort of gladly accept it, because I think football and football politics, I think life in general makes hypocrites of all of us. You only have to take one or two steps away. Everyone will be proved a hypocrite in something. So we always say we don't want these owners. But then you see the joy of the sort of Newcastle fans outside St James's Park. They're celebrating like they've won the Champions League, and for them, fair play to them, they have. So just your general thoughts on sort of Newcastle coming in, and just in terms of that ownership model of a sort of currently state-owned club.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's a double-edged sword. So life does make hypocrites out of everyone, and it does turn quick on you, like very quickly. So, look, for the Newcastle fans celebrating outside St James's Park, I reckon they were celebrating more the fact that Mike Ashley's gone rather than these new owners coming in. But, obviously they're going to be excited about the prospect of these billions of dollars coming into their club. Like, fair play to them. Like, of course they're going to be excited over that sort of thing. And it's same with us. Like, we want the Glazers out, but who else are we expecting to come in? We're not going to expect some blue-collar owner to come in and, get the club by on a couple of bucks. We want someone to come in with some money.
Well, on that, I'll just go to Larry in terms of when we have a manager debate around Solskjaer. I always make the point, it's half the question. Okay, Steve Bruce is going to lose, which we'll get into him. He's going to lose his job in the next 2 or 3 days. So Steve Bruce is a manager on the market. Let's say, okay, you want Ollie out. Okay, sack Solskjaer. Suddenly the Glazers say, let's go get Steve Bruce, club legend, bring him in. Suddenly everyone calling for Solskjaer's head is saying, no, hang on, I'd rather Ollie than Steve Bruce. So sacking the manager is only very much half the debate. And I always think that is lost in the Glazer argument. Now here I'm sitting here, I completely want the Glazers out. However, who's to say, okay, the Glazers leave? Who's to say worse owners aren't going to come in? Because at that level, okay, maybe the ambitious sort of owners in terms of the UAE, Qatar, etc., maybe they come in and they only just want to spend money to compete and be successful. Maybe sort of backstories and different reasons, but that is going to be their ambition. But at that level of business, and those people with that type of money, they're there to make money. They don't care if the team wins or not. They just want to make money. So if we do not replace the Glazers, but if the Glazers leave and worse owners come in, all of us for 16 years screaming Glazers out might be then going, well, hang on, should we have been Glazers out? The Glazers are actually better owners than these people. Just your thoughts on that sort of side of the argument.
Better the devil sometimes, lads. And that's the thing. You can sit there and you can criticize the Glazers, and they're not perfect owners by any means. But I've had this debate on here before, and at times not defended the Glazers, but you also have to understand, and not you specifically to either of you gents, but if they are coming in as particularly neutral investors into a business, they've actually been successful. Yes, they've taken money out of the club. I don't agree with, obviously leveraging debt against an asset. It's bonkers, particularly when you're talking about a football club that essentially supports itself. But, in saying that, okay, and I'm not supporting what they've done. It's been diabolical, but they still invest in the squad. We just saw a transfer window where we've brought in the likes of Rafael Varane, Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho. Compare that to what Newcastle have gone through with Mike Ashley. They were a big club. If you can think back to, I want to say the early 2000s, they were quite strong in the Premier League. Never a threat of relegation, you would have thought. He came in terms of his ownership, and they have been a massive sinking ship. So there's levels. Okay, now we can look at Manchester City with a great envy, but I also think there's an argument that if Manchester City aren't overtaken by a nation state, are we talking about the Glazers underinvesting, or are we talking about United and their recent struggles in terms of winning the Premier League again? And that's the thing. There'll never be a perfect agreement, and that's like it just comes down to what do you value. And I guess I'll put the question back to you: would you take the Saudis now if it meant United win the next 8 out of 10 Premier League titles? Because for me, give me the Glazers all day long.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those ones where you sit there and sort of talk about, you don't want to sort of make a comedic sort of line in regards to sort of human rights and everything, but it's that line. I forget, someone was interviewed on Sky Sports and they discussed, I think it was in regards to Manchester City. And he said, in a light-hearted way, but obviously don't want to joke about it, but he said, I don't care about human rights. I want to win the Premier League title. And that's the thing, as football fans, these things are going to happen around us in terms of everyday life. At the end of the day, they're far out of our control. We only sort of want to watch our football team. And as I said, in terms of hypocrites, here we are holding the latest iPhone. Like, who's to say we point the finger at Saudi Arabia or Qatar and all these Middle Eastern countries and their oil money? When you dig a little bit deeper and you look at the Americans, are American saints in this sort of thing? So we've got American owners and think, well, hang on, the Americans might actually be worse than sort of some of these countries. So it's a hard one, but I'll just say here, Mike, which is an interesting point in regards to the football side of things, might as well join the European Super League and get the revenue. The Premier League is broken, can't compete against Russian oligarch and Middle East states. All money of Man City and now Newcastle. And I think I read an article today in terms of almost the opposite way, talking about maybe the Super League now is completely dead and they'll just look at the Premier League will be the Super League. And it'll be very interesting. Okay, there is a Champions League reform coming in the next year or two, but it'll be very interesting now if we now will discuss a top 4 or top 6, whatever it may be. But say we suddenly have a clear top 6. So big teams, all the world's best players in our top 6 teams. UEFA won't just want 4 English teams in the Champions League. They'll want all 6. So it'll be very interesting how we're talking about a European Super League or Champions League. The Premier League might just become the Champions League. Lionel Messi has left La Liga. Cristiano Ronaldo has left La Liga. All these players are sort of descending on England. And it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out, especially with that Champions League reform. But I'll just go to you, Mad, on the sort of, we don't want to discuss we don't have the finances in front of us, but the wealth of these owners. Because when this story was breaking with Newcastle and the new owners, I thought, okay, yeah, they're going to get some rich owners. Thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, yeah, in 10 years they might maybe win an FA Cup or something. Then you dissect and you see the excitement around Newcastle and you thought, okay, this might be something serious. And we all talk about the wealth of this Man City owner, Sheikh Mansour, and Chelsea and Roman Abramovich, and how much money they have. And these are in Australian figures. I've got it up here on Optus, sort of tweeted it out. And these are in Australian figures, so I don't know what this converts to in pounds if you're listening in England. But the Manchester City owner, Sheikh Mansour, is worth $39 billion, which you just think he's worth $39 billion. And you think, oh, my God. And he's the most powerful man in world football now because of that, or maybe the PSG sort of contingent. But this public investment fund from Saudi Arabia, Australian dollars, $596 billion. So I'm just thinking, now Newcastle can't go into a pool and shop for new players that no one knows about now. The best players in the world is still Messi, Mbappe, Ronaldo. 590 billion isn't going to unearth a new pool of players where they can go shopping and bring in these unknown superstars. They're still going to be signing the same players. Ronaldo's still going to go to Man United. Messi's still going to go to PSG. But what it gives them is huge power and influence. And just your thoughts when you see, okay, Sheikh Mansour's coming in, done sort of great things with City, but he's a poor man compared to this investment company. So I'm just thinking, how much influence do you think Newcastle sort of could be in the next, whether it be immediate future, couple of years, but obviously looking forward into the 10, 15, 20 years time?
I don't think it'll be immediate future. I don't think it won't happen quickly. Like, we still have this season to see where they end up. I mean, Steve Bruce was saying he doesn't think he'll see the next game if new owners come in.
Yeah.
So you have to look at where they end this season, and then I think from next season onwards, they have to start building on that. You know, depending on what new manager they bring in, and then you look at what City done when the oil money come in. They weren't successful right away. They had a lot of managers come in.
It took City about 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and they bought some big name players too, and it wasn't success right away. Albeit Robinho thought he was going to United. and not City. So,
well, how do you think that plays, Larry? Because obviously, when Roman Abramovich came in for Chelsea are a big club. Chelsea are in the Champions League. They're sort of bouncing around FA Cups. They're a big club. As much as we banter them, they weren't obviously United, Liverpool, Arsenal, but they were sort of that next team. They were already the fourth or fifth best team, sort of thing. Funnily enough, in and around with Newcastle at the time, sort of thing. So, your thoughts on that? How did Newcastle go about this? Because obviously Chelsea did it, and they did it overnight. They suddenly turned their team fourth or fifth in the league to Premier League champions. They did it overnight. Manchester City tried that, and obviously it was 10 years later, sort of thing, or 6, 7 years later. It took a little bit more time. Suddenly it took them 4 years to get things right. Now, you do look at the Newcastle situation now, and yeah, for the next 2-3 months, they've got the same players. They're still in a relegation battle. So Steve Bruce will lose his job now, whether you think that's right or wrong. In the next couple of days, he'll get the sack. I'm sure he'll be very well paid, but it's unfortunate that is the business. They'll come in and get a new manager. What do they do with a new manager? Obviously, Imad's right. They're not going to go be signing Mbappe, Paul Pogba, and Lionel Messi in the next transfer window or two. But manager-wise, that's almost their first big statement. Are they going to sign a manager now? And even if you're the new manager, how do you go about if they approach you? Because you know you might be that man before the next man, sort of thing. So how do you think they approach this new manager? Because the name at the moment is Antonio Conte. Well, he's not going to be winning titles with Newcastle, so does he go there? So if he doesn't, who is the right man for Newcastle?
I could see them getting a transitional manager. I know this might sound a bit left field. I wouldn't be surprised if you see like a Frank Lampard pop up there. I think they'll look for someone with a name. They'll look for someone who's obviously a well-known player, maybe not elite. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Zinedine Zidane, if I'm being entirely honest. They'll pull out all the stops to get a big name in football. Even if they're not an elite manager, because it's going to be about building the brand. And obviously, if you want to start attracting those elite footballers, you need to get a good manager to, be the face of that project. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. But I think what Emad says is spot on. That in terms of talking about that elite consortium of players, it's going to be difficult for them to pull that off, at least in the initial 2-year period. Like to see what they do, particularly at the end of this season. Like you said, Tom, if they end up in the championship, you're not going to get Mbappe playing in that league, are you? So it's going to take a little while.
That's the thing. It's a very interesting take in terms of the relegation, because say for the next 2-3 months, they've still got the same players that find themselves in second last. They might improve the manager, but who's to say, okay, you go get a manager who you want to be challenged for titles or European football. It's a different battle in the relegation battle. You can have a Barcelona, but if you put them in the relegation battle in Man United in the Premier League, they won't perform like Barcelona. It's going to be a different fight for them. So it's an interesting one.
Sorry,
Mike,
Tom,
just saying,
I find it interesting that Newcastle was the club of choice. Like
that's always
of the teams that are doing really well, hanging around mid-table, challenging for the Europa positions. I find it very interesting that Newcastle was where they put their money and not somewhere maybe like West Ham or one of those teams, Like I know Leicester has a really good owner.
Do you think Newcastle being a sort of a one-team sort of city, sort of one-town team sort of thing will be there? Because they've got a fan base, maybe not a global fan base, but Larry, there's 50,000 people. Even if they go down to the championship, they're going to be selling 50 or 45.
But if you're looking for a big name club that's sitting low table, you'd go Arsenal, wouldn't you?
Well, that's the thing. In the top four, Larry, we'll throw a bit of banter around, but if you do look at it, okay, we can talk about how it's going to affect Man United moving forward. So then do we have to be looking over our shoulder? What are they going to do? In terms of, I don't know what we call it now. Do we call it a top four or a top six or however you want to describe that? Who do you think now is almost, okay, it might take them a year or two, of course, but in that immediate future, do you think Arsenal or it's Tottenham or it's I don't know, the other teams, maybe Everton sort of thing, who's really in that immediate danger of sort of being overtaken in the next 2-3 years?
I'm not sure. I think a lot hinges on what happens this season with them. But look, I'm really interested. I'm intrigued. I'm really interested to see what happens with Manchester City now. I think they're the biggest losers out of this, if I'm being entirely honest, because they still, despite all their success, Manchester City don't have that appeal for me. No, you don't look at it from a club that you say, like if you're an Mbappe growing up, I'm not looking at Manchester City thinking, oh, I'd really like to play there. All that history, Colin Bell, so forth. But you know what I mean? And I think that's the issue. Newcastle still have they still got quite a big name in world football. This might sound stupid, lads, but if you think of like yourself growing up, like we would have been kids when the movie Goal came out. Seriously, things like that make a club more well-known, more popular. I guarantee you there are more people in the world now who know Newcastle United over Manchester City. I'm certain of it.
Well, to be honest, and I'll make a confession here. My favourite Premier League goal is actually a Newcastle goal against Man United.
Do tell.
We
The
got
chip. You're telling the chip, the 5-0.
Felipe Alves, yeah, the chip against Schmeichel, fucking pissing down rain, 5-0, and he's chipped him from yards out. It's probably my favourite goal, man. I swear.
Okay, does anyone know where the remove person from stream is, so I can remove a man from the stream?
I'm sorry.
It was a brilliant goal, but 5-0. I posted a photo today of obviously Eric Cantona. When we went through those 1-0 wins in the '96 season, in terms of just before Kevin Keegan lost his marbles before that, but we will maybe stream it towards Manchester United now. But I'll just go through some comments. And Mike's saying he disagrees with me. I'm definitely not Mike here. I'm definitely not saying the American owners are worse. I'm saying when you break down individuals and the Glazers in terms of these might be saints in Saudi Arabia sort of thing. We're talking about the individual owners, and who's to say the Glazers, the saints, the Glazers might be really bad people sort of thing. So until we know the full details of every single person, but I agree when you do look at the sort of not stereotype, the facts in terms of what sort of the religious laws and sort of the repressive Middle Eastern state with oppressive religious laws on the Stone Age. First time I think I strongly disagreed with you. A very detailed sort of conversation there. But Stephen Gerrard as well to Newcastle, just shout like Frank Lampard sort of thing. Football Capital saying Newcastle fans are talking about winning the league and Champions League, but can't win a game in 7 this season. Newcastle won this season. I'm sure they have. I think there's only one team, maybe Norwich or someone haven't won. I'm sure Newcastle have won a game. I know they've scored a few goals. But before we get into just one more comment before we get into the Man United talk, Ryan saying so ironic from fans outside the stadium saying they have their club back. It's even further away from them now with overseas ownership, which is an interesting take and completely right, because I think we've talked about Newcastle not being this family club sort of thing, but this sort of with this one team town sort of thing. I'm just thinking they now will be classed as a big club. Okay, we can say, okay, they have no history now sort of thing when they enter that discussion, but they will get the criticism now, which they just haven't had before. Everyone sort of respects Newcastle, but now if they win a game, teams will say, oh, it's oil money, so they'll start to get hate, and they'll have to their fans will have to deal with it as a big club now.
You know what? I almost feel a bit happy for the Newcastle fans. They've been through, seriously, if you don't follow Newcastle, their ownership is bad. You think United's bad. Mike Ashley is a horrible owner.
What we talk about, and you're completely right. Actually, it's 10 times worse. However, you talk about it being bad. They're still in the Premier League. They're in the English Premier League sort of thing. They've got some good players. That 50,000 people turn up every week. What bad owners are, and obviously the Glazers are bad owners. So is Mike Ashley.
Like what happened at Bury, what happened at Derby. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
But we'll get into Manchester United and sort of what it means for Manchester United, because we've talked about Glazers and, okay, everyone's 100% Glazers out. But, Ahmad, can you see anything? Obviously, the Glazers acted after the protest last year and they sort of spent big in the transfer window in terms of Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane, and obviously Ronaldo, which did make a statement. Suddenly, all these Glazer out protests went very quiet. And you can understand, let's say the Glazers left after that protest and we had new owners came in and the new owners bought Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo, would be saying, fantastic, what ambition they're showing. So you can almost, while I don't agree with the protest going quiet, kind of rightly so, the protest went quiet because we sort of got what we wanted in terms of that short term. So just your thoughts on the immediate future for the Glazers when they see these Saudis coming into Newcastle. Are they looking over their shoulder, or it's nothing to them at the moment? They wouldn't even realise it's happening.
I don't think it's anything to them. I mean, I don't think they were looking over their shoulder when the money come into the city.
Maybe they should have.
Maybe that's right. Maybe they should have. And then again, that's up for discussion. Like we can sit here all we want and say, okay, they're bad owners, and who the good owners are, who the bad owners are. But obviously, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And like you said, they gave us our shiny new toys, and it's kept everyone quiet. But now, there's a big player in town now. There's a new sheriff in town, and you got to see what they're going to come with, because. Yeah, and just like City, City took a while to build this squad and this success that they're having now. But you remember the players they bought at the start. The odd big name here and there, but it was a lot of no-name players they're trying to build into something. And I find Newcastle are going to have to do the same, and it's going to be a gradual incline of, getting better players as the seasons progress. And once they get more success season after season, then you might see the big names go there. But I think for now, the Glazers won't be worrying too much about what Newcastle will do.
I think the good thing for Newcastle, not good thing, what do I care? But probably the good thing for Newcastle and their fans would be they've seen the new owners and new football people coming in will have seen what Chelsea did, will have seen what Man City did. So you can take the pros from it, but you can also learn from maybe what they did wrong. So they do have that little bit of evidence. But the football capital, the good stat for us, saying 4 teams haven't won this season: Southampton, Burnley, Newcastle, and of course Norwich. I don't think Norwich are going to win a game this season. But yeah, it will be interesting. I think Newcastle's first game is Tottenham, so obviously there'll be a big bounce in atmosphere. I think it's at St James's Park. But if there's one game Harry Kane's going to turn on a bit of form, it's probably that game. And as I said, I would love to see sort of Newcastle maybe slip up. But Ryan also saying for any investor in Premier League club is an attractive proposition. Newcastle is a perfect choice with Ashley wanting to sell and stably pulling the strings with her connections in the Middle East, where she's obviously played a huge part in it. I was just thinking, Larry, in terms of, we say, okay, the Glazers aren't going to look over their shoulders. It's nothing to them. The reason I think it'll impact, not just United, it's going to impact English football. Obviously, you look at when Manchester City came in, Manchester City wasn't an attractive option for a player. Obviously, the money was there, but who wants to go to Manchester City when they weren't challenging for titles? So Newcastle will have the money now, but they obviously can't attract someone who's ambitious to win a trophy. So what they will do is they'll pay a premium both in transfer fee and in wages. So you think, okay, that's bad for Newcastle, but people don't realise that's bad for the league because suddenly they're going to be spending 70 million on a nobody. So suddenly that next time we go in for a good player from that club, we're going to spend 120 million. So do you think this Newcastle thing quite sort of directly does impact Man United?
It does. I think you're gonna have Avram Glazer saying, "Excuse me, Salmon, sir. Listen here. We really want that midfielder. All right, I'm a Yank, and look. Do you want a cheeseburger? You look like you've got quite the stomach there. Come here. I'll give you a cheeseburger. Let me get that midfielder, please." I think that's how the conversation will go down. I think that's the new way of negotiating for the
good
Glazers.
accent, Larry.
Well, Josiah here's saying Glazers care less about winning the league title and more ensuring we secure top 4 for the Champions League money, which, yeah, I don't think there's never a debate around that. And Mike's saying you can bet the Super League will happen. Can't blame United, Juventus, etc. cashing in on their global fan base with streaming subscribers to compete against the oil money and oligarchy clubs, which it'll be fascinating the next broadcast deal. I don't know when that comes up, but that's what I sort of refer to in regards to that Champions League. We're now looking at potentially the 6 biggest clubs in the world. Obviously, you got PSG in there. Okay, PSG, but when Messi leaves, I think they'll sort of start to fade away a little bit. But we're going to have the 6 biggest clubs. Not calling Newcastle there at the moment, but who you got? You got Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle. All the best players in the world are going to be there. Obviously, you're going to have your Real Madrids and Barcelona. They're not going to go anywhere. I don't care about Barcelona's mess. They're going to stay a massive club. But the next TV rights in the terms of the Premier League, every single player is going to be wanting to play there. And I don't know how it's going to affect the transfer market because we talk about the Glazers not spending. And you can almost say, okay, we did need a right winger last season, Ahmad. But you can almost think from a business point of view, which we don't want to as fans, but you have to in terms of seeing the Glazers. It's probably a smart bit of business not signing Jadon Sancho for 120 million last season and getting him for 70 this year. While we're frustrated as fans, you can understand if they paid that 120 million for Jadon Sancho, next season when we want to go in for Jude Bellingham, we're spending 180 million. So it's probably a good thing I don't know, it's frustrating, but it's probably a good thing we weren't sort of bent over a barrel there. Just your thoughts on sort of the inflation of the market with Newcastle potential?
I think as United fans, since the Glazers have come in, we've been used to overspending anyway. There's always that United tax. So yeah, like while you say, waiting on Sancho that one season and paying a bit less for him, worked out as in a better deal financially. I mean, Newcastle are going to have to start overspending anyway. And that might mean we pick up players on the cheap because everyone's going to start charging this Newcastle tax because they're the big players now. So
no, it'll be interesting. I'm fascinated to see because, as I said, Steve Bruce is going to lose his job in the next couple of days. I really like Steve Bruce. I understand he's not the manager to take any club sort of forward, but I do like him. But yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how they go in terms of bringing this new manager in. But Larry, before we move on, last point on that. Not that they're going to get relegated. They'll get out of this. They will spend a bit of money in January. But how do you think it sort of sets up the next part of the season in regards to sort of big games? Is there going to be sort of a subconscious feeling towards Newcastle now that it is a huge game and a big game? Or are we going to be playing a relegation battle team in Newcastle? Or are we suddenly saying, hang on, this is a big club, even though they might not have the players, there will be a feel, there will be an aura, there will be a narrative around playing Newcastle now.
What are we, 30 minutes in, still talking about Newcastle United? There's an interest, mate. There's an interest there. I think it will be. I'm really keen to see how it unfolds, but I'm really keen to see what happens with the other clubs. I'm really interested to see how this impacts Manchester City, because, like I said, I don't think that there isn't enough elite players to go around for all these clubs. So someone's going to have to lose somebody, and I think Manchester City is the one that misses out. I think with United, and yeah, you can say I'm biased, but I think it's logical as well. To be fair, there's a history, a romance to Old Trafford. And a detailed history at that is attractive for any player. I don't think Manchester City, despite their success, have that. Like, they don't have that rising from the ashes story. They don't have the, rising from a Munich tragedy, or having, so many local players come through the academy. What's our record for having a local junior since, is it 1937?
1937, yeah.
United have had a local junior in the matchday squad. Manchester City don't have that. You know what I mean? That's the thing. There is a beautiful story to Manchester United. Even at Liverpool, you want to talk about rivalry. Liverpool have had their own tragedies. They've got a rich history. It is a big football club. Real Madrid, Barcelona. You can attract a wonderful caliber of player when you have lots of money, undoubtedly. But I don't think any of us watching Manchester City look there and say, you know what, I can really get behind that football club. I like what they stand for. You don't have that. It just doesn't exist. So really interesting to see what happens, because, we're already seeing in the Premier League, the gap between the top and the bottom is massive. So someone's going to suffer out of this, and it'll be really interesting to see who that is.
Yeah, no, completely agree. We'll start to move on and just sort of wrap up the podcast a little bit on Paul Pogba. But Ryan saying, wonder how long it'll take Newcastle to assemble a squad to challenge. They may go through a few managers for a few years. They'll invest slowly.
At least 3 years, at least.
Oh, yeah, they might do what City did. Maybe they'll squeeze an FA Cup or two in there, maybe, sort of thing. But yeah, it will be a slow burner, I think. But the narrative is there. As you said, we've been talking about it for half an hour. And just some breaking news here. The Football Capital has tweeted, or sort of put in the live chat, Ronaldo, Premier League Player of the Month, which I just checked on Twitter. And that's true. And look, I'm going to celebrate that. That's fantastic. I don't know how he's won it. I think he's been good. Ahmad, Premier League Player of the Month for Ronaldo. Does he deserve it?
I think the hype might have won him the award. I don't know. There's plenty. How can we have this podcast and not be biased? I mean,
I think he's been.
I'd give it to Fred if I'm in a United player won it.
He's been unbelievable. The problem for Ronaldo is, since he's come in, Manchester United as a team look much worse.
I mean, this is what I was saying last time, Larry, but I agree with you 100%. I think Ronaldo's been fantastic since he's been on the pitch. His couple of goals on his second coming. But I think the dynamics changed so much, and everyone else around him now is starting to look a bit worse than what they actually are.
I wish we could go back to that day when you say he scored the 2 goals. Obviously, it would have been good to have this narrative now. It was against Newcastle. It was against Newcastle, this small club. If that happened now, yeah. Ronaldo scores 2 goals against Newcastle, it would be a hell of a story. But Larry, look, while we both sit here and say he's been very good, does he deserve Premier League Player of the Month? Or, as Ahmad's right in saying, it's a little bit of hype around, or not a little bit of hype, it's down to the extreme hype around him?
Well, I think there's been a lot of inconsistent form all around the Premier League. City have dropped points this month. Chelsea have dropped points. Liverpool. So, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Oh, no, I'm over the moon with it. I'm going to go and sort of tweet all my Liverpool mates and Arsenal mates sort of thing. I'm going to rub it in sort of thing. And while I think he has been very good, I don't think he was our best player of the month. I thought David De Gea definitely deserved it over Ronaldo.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but I'm definitely happy, and more Ronaldo.
I think they've counted the Europa League goal and said, sod it. He scored a cracking goal last minute. It wasn't our competition, but give him Player of the Month.
Well, we'll move on to Paul Pogba and talk about international break, Larry. On the last episode, we said how long until Mino Raiola talks, and we had a sort of a stop clock going, ready to go. But Ahmad, it wasn't Raiola this time. It was Paul Pogba opened his mouth. And look, I haven't got the quotes in front of me, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit bored of. We know this is going to happen, but it was along the lines of he likes Dybala. One day he might play Juventus again. Who knows? Time will tell. He's contracted to Man United. He'll see what happens in June, sort of thing. Just your thoughts on this is an ongoing circus of Paul Pogba and international comments. Is it something you sort of get frustrated with every time, or have you just got to the stage where it's nothing? You open his mouth, nothing really changes.
When it first started happening, it was easier to get frustrated at it then. I think now you just know, you just expect it's going to happen. You just wait to see what garbage is going to come out of whose mouth, and this time it was coming out of Paul's mouth. But it was only yesterday I was reading that he wants to extend his contract. So, and it's just strange to wake up this morning and hear that he's saying that he's still in touch with a few of the players and he loves Turin, and you just brush it off.
Mate.
What do you think, Larry, in terms of what Ahmad says there? Do you think, okay, this is Paul Pogba talking, but sometimes when Raiola talks, we say, well, that's coming from Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba's allowing that. But now that it's Paul Pogba talking, can we make an argument that it's really Mino Raiola and saying use this as a negotiating tactic? Okay, if you tell United, no, I don't want to go to Juventus, it forces their hand a little bit. So can you see this? Okay, it's Paul Pogba and his words, but it's almost directed by Mino Raiola. And obviously, Paul Pogba's at a training or whatever. It's not his fault the cameras have gone up to him, sort of thing. Obviously, he's the big star, so the cameras are naturally going to go to him. But in terms of this comment, well, it's frustrating as fans, and I share all the frustrations. It's a nothing comment. It's just a negotiating thing, keeping all his options open, depending on how things do pan out at Man United. It's
smart. He's just adding value to his contract. That's really all he's doing. I think he'll stay at United. I really do. I really think he'll stay. But what he's doing, he drives an interest, right? If you're the Glazers or if you're Manchester United, it's a horrible PR story. Player left for free, 9 years ago? Then he goes again. You pay a record fee to bring him back, and then he goes on a free again. Awful. Seriously, how stupid does that sound? That's why you're laughing. It's ridiculous.
While it is, and I completely agree. Yes, I'm fully behind what you're saying and agree. But if we re-sign him, people think, we're just we put him on a new contract. We're not putting him on a new contract. If we're signing him at the end of the season, that's a new signing. We'll be putting a transfer fee on those wages type thing because he'll be a free agent. He'll go to Juventus and say, Juventus, you don't have to pay me a transfer fee. So that 50 million, put that on the wages sort of thing. He'll be doing the exact same thing to United. He'll be saying, United, I'm off to Juventus. Oh, you want me back? Well, if I'm a player on the market, you'll be spending 50 million for me. You're going to put those 50 million on the wages. So you talk about the embarrassment of losing him again is also the embarrassment signing him again, because that is what we will be doing.
You know what? I actually don't think it is the craziest story to say United would be a better side without him. I really he's a fantastic footballer, one of the best midfielders in the world, undoubtedly. But if you look at our system, it's too I think you've got space. You can only play Pogba, Bruno in that midfield three that we all obsess over if you've got an absolutely dominant number six. But if you look at those dominant number six, how many are there in world football? If we're being real, I can think of Kimmich off the top of my head. I can think of Kante. A lot of people say Declan Rice, but we've got no evidence to see that he can sit in the six for a side that's pushing forward beyond the halfway line. There's not many out there, and that's the problem. I think actually if you got two really good number eights and replaced Pogba with those two number eights, United probably look like a more balanced football side. And then you could, then we won't be having that argument around McTominay, Fred, etc.
Yeah, no, we've made the case on the last one in terms of we're discussing Bruno and Pogba and saying, okay, yeah, in an ideal 11, when we're right now strongest 11, we both have them there. However, when you do weigh up things, yeah, maybe it is a bit better to have someone a little bit more balanced than Paul Pogba. If you want Bruno to be your main man, if you want Bruno to go defend up near the number 9, which you don't want that, but if he is going to go defend that high, you do need maybe that more defensively inclined player rather than Paul Pogba. But George saying Pogba in Turin was a recipe for disaster. Yeah, I forgot France were obviously in Italy for the Nations League. But Mike also saying Newcastle will get football mercenaries initially. Newcastle isn't a great place to live and they don't have any European football competitions they qualify to compete in. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting sort of – I wonder if there'll be a statement signing. Obviously, they're not going to go get Mbappe or Haaland. But if there is a big money signing, maybe they steal someone from one of the top Premier League clubs So maybe challenger for a title suddenly goes into a relegation battle in January. That'll be
Gareth Bale's
interesting.
got contract. That wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah, that's a shout, Gareth Bale. Yeah, definitely. I think, as I said, I think both of you alluded to, maybe the first big signing will be a manager, and maybe not in terms of managerial ability, but a big signing, Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard, that type of name. But Josiah saying here, as Sir Alex said in his book, Pogba's issue is his agent. If Paul Pogba wanted to leave, he should go in January so we can get them some money. United's problem is we need Pogba, whereas Pogba doesn't really need us. And look, yeah, that's the thing. We love Paul Pogba as a player, but here we are, what is it, 4 years later, 5 years later, 6 years later, talking about his time and what's his best position. And if we're asking that question after God knows how long, maybe we don't need an answer. Maybe it is best to get rid of.
Tom, I've said it on here before, and I'll ask you guys again. As elite as he is with the ball, his ability, you can't question that. He's not the perfect midfielder. I think there has to be an acceptance to that. You know what I mean? You don't pay 90 million for someone to say, he can't sit in a 2, you got to play a 3, he's got to be on the left side of a 3, he needs someone to do the defensive work for him. Well, yeah, he's elite, but I think if you're having, and let me ask both of you guys, if you're choosing between Pogba and Bruno right now, if you have to have one of them in your team, I know who I'm choosing. It's not even close. As good as he is, it's not even close. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, in terms of productivity, yeah, Bruno and
he's got flaws in his
what he
game.
gives to everyone. Yeah, no, definitely. Elliot, how are you, mate? Hope you're keeping well on this Friday night. And George saying the Saudis would be tempted to sell the club after they see the first episode of Geordie Shore. God, I remember that show. That's a flash in the pan, that one. But
Do you
Matt,
reckon
what
they'll
do you
start
think of that?
selling hummus at the canteen outside the ground?
Will be interesting. Well, Newcastle is that thing. You mentioned the sort of movie Goal and sort of the narrative that had around and how big it was for Newcastle. Could you see, Mad, in terms of we're talking about sort of Arsenal and their current documentary? We're talking about Tottenham have had the documentary, Manchester City have had it, Juventus have had it, etc. Could Newcastle maybe go down along these lines of having this sort of documentary style thing to sort of promote their brand globally? Well, I think Ahmad has frozen, so I'll just kick Ahmad from the studio. Maybe he'll come back in, but I'll throw that to you, Larry. Could you see Newcastle going down that commercial avenue straight away in terms of trying to build their public sort of image?
Yeah, absolutely. What they'll do, and this is what all these clubs are doing, and look, it's smart. Saudi Arabia. So I follow WWE. Don't laugh at me, guys, but I do. And what we saw from the Saudi Arabian government there is they got a WWE to agree to a 10-year deal, and part of that. So Saudi Arabia are undergoing this project. The name eludes me, but the project of that, Tom, is basically by 2030 they're trying to build this whole brand new ideology of what Saudi Arabia is about. So it's about attracting tourism to the country, being like a sports central nation, so being known for that. So if I were to put a comparison, Manchester in England is known for its arts, its music. Saudi Arabia wants to know for being a country that can attract top sports events. So that's part of their whole marketing appeal as a nation. So yeah, they'll go hard on it. I think they'll advertise the country. I think what you'll now see, and we saw it with Qatar now with the World Cup, you'll start seeing Saudi Arabia putting their hands up for those sorts of events. They're going to go, it's a project. It's a project to change the image of the nation. It is sports washing. That is exactly what it is. But you know what? If you're a Newcastle fan, and look, rightly or wrongly, you saw how happy they are. They'll be absolutely buzzing as long as they get the wins in the bank.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just back on Paul Pogba, which, as much as I love Paul Pogba, football capital is 100% right here, 90 million. And his second touch is a tackle. So often Paul Pogba is standing there with the ball with no one near him. Stop the ball with his studs, and suddenly it bounces off him 2 yards. We talk about Fred's first touch, but it's often Pogba's second touch that sort of bounces off him. And Lee saying, what's this little hidden gem I've stumbled across? So Lee, maybe you're a Newcastle fan. Hopefully you're a Man United fan. Let us know, but haven't seen you in here before, but hope you're well, and you're definitely welcome. But Ahmad hasn't jumped back in the studio, but we'll just...
Thanks for subscribing, by the way, Lee. If you haven't subscribed, follow suit to Lee. I got my little notification, so thanks, mate. Really appreciate that.
No, thank you. And a good reminder, please like the video if you are watching live. But is there anything else, Larry, sort of United-related we want to touch on? Obviously, there are the minutes that have come out from the sort of fan forum. We'll touch on that in the next episode. Anything Glazers, Newcastle takeover, or anything else I've missed?
No, not really, Tom. Always happy to talk United with you. And look, it'll be really interesting. I think it's an interesting time to be a Premier League football fan. And what this does, I think what we haven't touched on is you got to say that the attraction, how this impacts European football, and this is the fear for that European Super League coming back. La Liga, how do they compete? You know, you'll have your Madrid and your Barcelonas, but how do you compete when you've got these large consortiums taking over football clubs? It's gonna get the talent all to one place, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm really keen to see how this impacts the Premier League, but also how does that impact European football as a whole?
And also, as Lee mentions, how it impacts not just the UEFA, not just Premier League, but also the Championship, which we started the episode with Lee saying there is a real chance Newcastle could still go down this year, which, as I said, I do want United to win the league. There is a small part of me. I don't know if it's a jealous football fan or whatever, but I would love to see Newcastle go down. And look, they'll bounce back. Obviously, they'll go get the best Championship manager or whatever.
Have you been to Newcastle, Tom? Just out of curiosity, England?
Yeah, played a game there once. Yeah, against Sunderland. So not against Newcastle, but it was in Newcastle. We played against Sunderland. So forget the result. Mustn't have been a good one if I can't remember it. But George also saying, imagine a £90 million player having to live in Newcastle, which will be part of the stumbling block for Newcastle. Okay, they can go buy all these players, but the players want to win trophies now. Obviously, money is important. It will be fascinating to see who their big first name is, because a big first name will come in and won't win trophies. He'll come into a relegation battle type thing. So that'll be fascinating. And the stick we can obviously throw at that player is he's only there for the money, which who are we to argue? If someone's going to offer us that money, we would go as well. But it is obviously a stick football fans will beat them with, and rightly so. So hopefully everyone did enjoy that Friday night pint. I'm just about through my beer. I hope Larry has finished his cider. And well done, mate. And I'm just thinking we'll be back maybe Sunday or Monday, maybe have a couple of days off, but obviously no football. So, well, there is international football, but
I see George's comment. Hazard to be the first big signing. Are you saying that because he's put on weight, George?
Well, that's an issue. Where does Hazard? Is he still at Real Madrid? I haven't seen him since he left Chelsea.
He's barely played, unfortunately. He's just been riddled with injuries.
As you say, you mentioned a good shout with Gareth Bale, but for him as well, saying Granit Xhaka. We're interested. I don't know what his knee injury is, but I think it will be a player like that. I think they'll take someone from a big club. Maybe that player's not wanted at that big club, but I think if they can, I don't want Arsenal aren't in a title race, but if they take someone,
wouldn't be a bad shout.
If they take someone from one of those clubs who, again, Arsenal, because they're not in a title race, but if you almost have the name in a title race, Arsenal. If
they want to get
rid of a club like that.
They want to get Aubameyang off the book. Like, that's what I'm talking about. I think they won't get the elite of the elite, but they'll get the bracket below that. They can get an Aubameyang. They can definitely get maybe a Lacazette.
Could they get a Fred?
Oh, mate, please, you know what? I'll chip in. I'll chip into the transfer fee if they take Fred. Not that they need $1. God, I think I read if they lost 90% of their wealth, they'd still be richer than Sheikh Mansour. That is nuts. Give me a percentage. I'll take 1% of the Saudis' income, Tom. Just 1%. That's all I ask. You'll never see me on one of these videos again.
Well, I hope Fred is doing well. Fred's playing football for Brazil, so we're all bagging him, but he's off playing international football. But the good thing is, and again, we don't want to sound harsh, him playing international football for Brazil this week means he's unavailable for the Leicester match, which is good news. So sorry, Fred, but it is true. But as I said, hopefully everyone did enjoy the video. Big thanks to obviously Ahmad for coming on. Hopefully his internet connection is fine. But Larry, good to chat to you on a Friday night. Now, next Friday, and when everyone is double vax sort of thing, or supposedly, pubs do reopen. Now, I don't know what the procedure is if we have to book 2 months in advance to order a pint and get a table at the pub sort of thing. But pubs are starting to reopen. So it'll be good to meet up in person and sort of drop these Zoom calls for a couple of days until the next virus hits.
Yeah, mate, really keen and looking forward to it. Really keen to do a video. So stay tuned for that. We'll be organising that. We'll do a proper pubcast for the first time on YouTube. So really looking forward to organising that with you, Tom.
And everyone is definitely welcome. Obviously, if you are in Sydney, I don't want you to be breaking international travel laws to travel from the UK to Sydney to meet us at the pub. But if you are in Sydney, obviously welcome at the pub with us. Probably the Manchester Derby, we're going to organise a big night out. So actually just finish up here. One last comment from Lee, watching from the UK. Also, yes, I'm a United fan. Newcastle need to be looking at players like Ings, which is a good shout. I could actually see that one happening, Danny Ings. Good shout. Could you imagine if they took Fred? Enjoy watching. Thank you, guys. Well, good to have you, Lee. Really appreciate the kind words. And that's a very good shout. Didn't think of Danny Ings. That is almost the perfect signing to take them from that. He'll get you 6-7 places higher up the league.
You sign Ings, not signings.
Do you have that Newcastle meme for Mohammed bin Salman? I wanted to buy a Newcastle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got it right here, actually. I have to read this before we go. Come on. It was pretty good. Where are we?
I wanted to buy a Newcastle.
I said I wanted to buy... Yeah, sorry, Tom. Please, take the honors.
I wanted to buy a Newcastle, but the buggers bought me a football team. So it was good. You had to read it. It's good. Mohammed bin Salman. But yeah, for anyone in our pro clubs team, obviously no Ian Costley FC. It is Dad Joke 101. But as I said, hopefully everyone did enjoy the podcast. Please subscribe if you are new. Please like the video, and we'll be back later on the weekend, Sunday or Monday, to have another chat about all things United, and I'm sure Newcastle will pop up in it as well. So enjoy your drink, Larry, and we'll chat to you soon.
Pleasure, mate.